Good morning, everyone. Here's your Mormon news update for August 4th, 2025. Today, we're going to start off by talking about a short documentary called The Mascot, discussing BYU's most famous mascot, Charlie Bird, as Cosmo. The description under the video on YouTube says, Charlie Bird rose to fame as Brigham Young University's viral mascot, only to reveal a deeper truth beneath the mask, navigating life as an openly gay member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a church that both celebrates and excludes him. A film by Delaney Plant. Here is the clip I found the most impactful. This is Jillian Orr, a BYU graduate, who is best known for a viral moment at her 2022 graduation ceremony where she revealed a rainbow pride flag she had sewn into her graduation gown. The action was a public protest of the university's honor code, which prohibits same-sex romantic behavior.
When I see Charlie and Ryan showing that they're able to participate and that they support the church and they love it and they get to have callings and they get to be queer and be a part of it, it is so frustrating to me. It looks to me that he is showing everyone, look at me, I'm so blessed. I can have this, I can have callings, I can have a husband, I can get married and not get excommunicated. But there are plenty of people who are still being excommunicated for doing the same thing.
The church's official policy is clear. While same-sex attraction is not a sin, engaging in sexual relations outside of a legal marriage between a man and a woman is considered a serious transgression. This has led to excommunication or other disciplinary action for members who enter into same-sex marriages. When a famous member like Charlie Bird is openly married and maintains his membership, it shows that fame, influence, or public relations concerns are prioritized over consistent enforcement of church policy. If you want to watch the entire video, the link will be in the show notes. Now let's go to X, where on July 21st, Hank Smith said, there were 1,000 missionaries set apart, yesterday, first time in the history of the church. Then he said, I stand corrected. The 1,000 are those missionaries assigned to the Provo MTC, which is a first for the church. And then he said, I love seeing these moments. There was a day when Samuel Smith and a knapsack full of copies of the Book of Mormon constituted the entire missionary program of the church. I wanted to bring this post up because I do not have the answer to why this might be happening and would love to ask what you think about this. Is the Mormon Church missionary force really blowing up? I also thought it interesting that in the comments on this post, someone said, careful not to release too much info if this isn't from a public source. I used to work there and saw people fired. Please let me know your thoughts about this entire interaction in the comments. Now let's talk about how happy Mormons are, how good they are at community, and how that interacts with a news article about loneliness in Utah that just came out. In an article from the Deseret News that came out in April of this year, it says, Latter-day Saint women also have the highest rate of being very happy, 35%. In fact, only 5% of married Latter-day women in the sample reported being not too happy, significantly lower than that of other religious groups. The religiousness of husbands appears to make a difference. For Latter-day Saint wives who said religion is very important to their spouse, the rates of being very happy are as high as 42%. Latter-day Saint women and Latter-day Saint mothers also have the highest percentage, rating their family lives as excellent, 27%, and 30% respectively. On the other end of the spectrum, Latter-day Saint women were less likely to rate their family life as fair or poor, 9% and 7% respectively, compared to other women. Mormons do love to highlight how happy they are. They are told that they should be happy, so when asked if they are, even if they are experiencing severe bouts of depression or loneliness or sadness, they are conditioned to respond that they are happy. In October of 2015, Thomas S. Monson said, Our Heavenly Father loves us enough to say, Thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, and so on. We know the commandments. He understands that when we keep the commandments, our lives will be happier, more fulfilling, and less complicated. Our challenges and problems will be easier to bear, and we will receive His promised blessings. In April of 1991, Richard Scott said, "Real joy comes from righteous character, and that is built from a pattern of consistent righteous decisions. When the things that you acquire are used as tools to help others, they won't rule your life. Your righteous decisions determine who you are and what is important to you. They make doing the right things easier. For happiness now and throughout your life, steadfastly obey the Lord, no matter what pressure you feel to do otherwise." And another Mormon leader, Jeffrey Holland, said in September of 2016, "The Book of Mormon teaches many powerful, provocative truths. One of them is that the nature of God is synonymous with the nature of happiness. It also teaches, therefore, that wickedness never was happiness. So I ask you to reject transgression in order to live consistent with the nature of God, which is the nature of true happiness. I encourage you and applaud you in pursuing the path that leads to happiness. You can't find it any other way." This is a very, very small sampling of quotes from LDS.org that tie happiness to righteousness. Mormons often come to the conclusion that if they acknowledge that they aren't always happy, it also means that they are unrighteous. In this framework, a person experiencing sadness, anxiety, or depression, even if it's due to biological or external factors, can internalize the belief that their unhappiness is a symptom of personal sin or a spiritual failing. This can lead to a vicious cycle where their unhappiness causes them to feel guilt and shame, which in turn exacerbates their unhappiness, making it even more difficult to seek help or believe they are worthy of joy. The burden is placed squarely on the individual to be happy by being more righteous, and righteousness is defined by the leaders and includes things like not drinking coffee or tea, wearing church-sanctioned underwear, and giving 10% of their income to the church, whether they can afford it or not. Along with happiness, Mormons also like to brag about how well they do community. I have moved quite a few times in my life, and when I was an active Mormon, I found solace in each move knowing that no matter where I went, I would have an instant community of Mormons. I would actually bear my testimony about it as a way to prove that the Mormon church is the only true church by saying no matter where I move to, the church is the same everywhere, because it is God's one true church, and He has made sure of it. A post from the Mormon subreddit highlights it this way: "The strength of community, how Latter-day Saints continue to inspire in a changing world. One of the most powerful things about being a Latter-day Saint is the deep sense of community and purpose that we share. Whether it's helping a family move, supporting someone in times of crisis, or simply offering a warm smile on Sunday, we come together in ways that truly make a difference. I was reflecting on how much service is ingrained in our culture, how many of us have dropped everything to help after a natural disaster, brought meals to someone in need, or even just reached out with a kind word. It's something so simple yet so profound. We don't just believe in Christ, we strive to live as He did. Beyond the small acts of service, there's also the strength that comes from knowing we are never alone. Our ward families, missions, temples, and gatherings help us stay grounded even when life throws challenges our way. No matter where we go, there's always a place for us. With the world changing so rapidly, I've been reminded how important it is to hold on to faith, family, and service. What are some moments where you've felt the warmth of our community in your life? What has helped you feel closer to God and to those around you? I'd love to hear your stories. Now, let's go to Salt Lake City for this article. Utah ranks among the top 5 loneliest states in the nation, according to U.S. Census data. State health experts say the effects are showing up in both youth and adults across the state. According to the U.S. Census Bureau's Household Pulse survey, more than 1 in 3 Utah adults say they feel lonely always or often. So they're feeling like they have people around them. They just don't have those closer connections, and that's something we're worried about. Amy Winder-Newton, director of the Utah Office of Families, said, in the 2023 Student Health and Risk Prevention Survey, about 25% of Utah youth reported often feeling like people are around me but not with me, according to the Utah Department of Health and Human Services. That same feeling is seen in adults, Winder-Newton said. In the 2021 Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, about 6% of adults reported the same experience of being surrounded by others, but still feeling isolated. As an active member, I remember having all of those conflicting feelings. I was working so hard to be righteous, so of course I was happy. I also had what I was told was the best community. People would show up at a moment's notice with meals or shovels and rakes. And while all of this was happening, I often felt lonely. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is known for its strong social networks, service, and close-knit wards. Many members, despite being righteous, report feeling isolated and lonely, though. I think one of the primary drivers is a pervasive culture of perfectionism and the pressure to project an idealized image of a happy Mormon life. This cultural expectation, often reinforced in public settings like Sunday meetings and social media, creates a powerful disincentive to admit to struggles. Members may feel that showing vulnerability, whether it's about doubt, mental health issues, or personal failures, is a sign of a spiritual weakness or a lack of faith. This leads people to hide their true selves and their real challenges, creating superficial relationships where service and smiles are exchanged, but genuine heart-to-heart connections are rare. It took me a long time to understand that this is what was happening in my Mormon communities. This lack of vulnerability turned community interactions into a performance of faith, where people were more concerned with appearing to have it all together than with being authentic. As a result, I often felt profound loneliness, not because I was physically alone, but because I was emotionally and spiritually isolated, surrounded by people who didn't know anything real about me, and I didn't know anything real about them. Now let's go to Cat Country, Utah for some fun. The title of this article is, "Here are the most Mormon last names of all time." The first one, Jensen. It says, "Oh, Brother Jensen, 11% of all the Jensens live right here in Utah, and I swear 98% of them are Mormon." I definitely knew quite a few Jensens when I lived in Brigham City, Utah. The next name is Goobler. Oh yeah, the Gooblers are definitely Mormon. My neighbors growing up were the Gooblers. They created a little restaurant called Durango's. I'm thankful for that family every day. The article has a little description after each last name, and that was theirs about Goobler. I too know a Mormon with the last name of Goobler. The next one is Ents. Throw a rock in St. George and you'll probably hit an Ents. They're everywhere and better than you. This one is funny. I lived in St. George for 2 years, and I don't remember anyone with that last name. Maybe I was living on the wrong side of town. The next name is Jorgensen. Most of the Jorgensens that I know of are from Richfield, but definitely Mormon. Personally, that name I've heard, but I don't know anyone with that last name. The next name is Hatch. This last name is interesting because it's super popular in Utah and within the Mormon Church. 11% of all Hatches in the world live in Utah. I knew someone with that last name when I was the Relief Society president of the BYU Idaho 11th Ward, which is in Idaho, but maybe they were from Utah originally. Next is Mortensen. 15% of all Mortensens live in Utah. They're Utah's 124th most popular last name, but only the 2,952nd most popular in the country. Then there's Meekum. I had a math teacher with this last name, and if you've ever met a Meekum, they're most likely from Utah and most likely Mormon. A whopping 46% of all Meekums are from Utah. Once again, I met a Meekum family at BYUI. Next is Sorensen. Utah is full of the Sens, Jensen, Sorensen, Larsen, Hansen. Maybe it's a Mormon thing. Then they mention Levitt. Oh yeah, Levitt is a big one. 10% of all Levitts in the world live right here in this state. Next is Fulmer. Another very Mormon last name is Fulmer. 30% of the world's population of Fulmers live in Utah. This is one I hadn't heard a lot either. Then there's Christiansen/Christiansen. What about the Christiansens that are pronounced Chris-chi-an-sun? That just feels made up. They just want it to be unique, right? Next is Larson. The Larsons are the 512th most popular name in the U.S., but the 15th most popular in Utah. Next is Olson. This one is shockingly a huge Utah name. 10% of all Olsons live in Utah. Does that mean Mary-Kate and Ashley Olson could be Mormon? For me, this brings up the artist Greg Olson. My sister lived in his ward for a while back in the day. Then there's Nielsen/Nielsen, to which they say this is the most frustrating name to spell in the entire state. Is it Nielsen? Nielsen? Nelson? Nielsen? Nielsen? Someone help. Next is Allred. There's only 5,300 Allreds in the world, and 20% of them live in Utah. This one actually makes me think of the FLDS communities. Next is Madsen, another last name ending in S-E-N. This is a big Mormon name here in Utah. And personally, my biggest crush of junior high was a Madsen. I really wanted to marry that kid. And the last one is Call. This one is interesting because 13% of the Call population lives in Utah, but all the Calls that I know are not Mormon, go figure. That doesn't ring true for me. When my family moved to Utah when I was 10, we bought a house from Brother Call, who was in fact Mormon. The house was built in the early 1900s by the father of Brother Call, and Brother Call was actually born in one of the bedrooms in the house. The house was 3 stories, and although each room wasn't very big, there were a lot of them. And the guy who built it had some sort of phobia about getting stuck in the house. So every room was connected by small doors to the room or rooms next to it. And the back of the house had a built-in fire escape. There was also an underground tunnel that started under the floor at the bottom of the basement stairs and led to a hatch outside the back door. Do any of those names remind you of the ward you grew up in, especially if you grew up in Utah? Let me know in the comments. And last up today, let's finish with this great quote that says, "Some of the hardest conversations are the ones you have with yourself about what you are tolerating and why. Radical honesty means calling your own bluff when you know something isn't working." And that's your update for today, folks. I absolutely hope you have the day that you deserve.